So let's go ahead and shift gears over to Purdue and talk about the storylines over there. Hey everybody, Craig Crash here, taking a break from the video to let you guys know that this was recorded back on December 12th before Aiden O'Connell opted out of the Citrus Bowl. So any of the preview was without that knowledge, but we still wanted to get that out for you guys and get that video to you guys so you could watch at least the parts of the preview that does make a little bit more sense before Aiden O'Connell decided to opt out. So just keep that in mind. Just want to let you guys know, but let's go ahead and get back into the preview. I'm going to kind of ignore the obvious one to talk about some other things, because I know, B. Scott, you've got a lot to say on the obvious one as well, with, of course, Jeff Brom, moving on, and we'll get to more of that anyway here in a moment. But, we talked about which version of Notre Dame and South Carolina you're going to see. I want to know which version of LSU and Purdue we're going to see, because
That's true.
You have an LSU team that lost to Florida State week 1, which Florida State was a much improved team this year. They got blown out by 27 to Tennessee. They lost by 15 to Texas A&M. They didn't just get beat on some fluky play. They lost by double digits to a Texas A&M team that was terrible this year.
Well, in their defense, that was when Texas A&M was good.
No, that was at the end of the year.
Oh, it was? Okay,
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah.
I redact that comment. Because
that was
beginning of
when
the year, Texas A&M looked good, and then it was just like, I guess maybe their NIL checks didn't cash or something.
Yeah, something.
They all bounced.
My favorite, after they lost to Appalachian State, my favorite, the next week when game day was there, my favorite sign was the only ATM, because of course their logo is ATM, and it's like the only ATM that is good for $1.5 million, because that's what Texas A&M paid Appalachian State to come and win in College Station. So that was pretty nuts. But yeah, no, it was at the end of the year, when I was thinking, okay, here's what the playoff committee is going to do. They're going to line up Georgia and LSU 1 versus 4 to hype up a semifinal matchup, and then I was like, well, they kind of screwed that all up with losing A&M. So because I was kind of thinking, LSU is going to get in if they win the SEC championship, and they kind of ruin their chances with a loss to A&M. But this is also an LSU team that blew out Ole Miss by 25 and upset Alabama in Baton Rouge. Then you've also, on the other hand, got a Purdue team that lost to Syracuse and Wisconsin, got dismantled by Iowa by 21. I know, the wind was crazy. You were there. But still, they did lose to an Iowa team by quite a bit, an Iowa team that
the wind was blowing so hard, though. They
lost to Nebraska and lost to and couldn't get the offense going against South Dakota State. So I know the wind was blowing, but Iowa was also, of course, all the Big Ten West teams were not the greatest. But anyway, they also, though, upset Illinois, who was 21 at the time, and hung in the first half. I mean, they played a great first half against Michigan. If we get first half Purdue against LSU.
I will tell you, going into the restroom, going into the second quarter when Purdue was leading, Michigan fans were in there going, we're not worried. Are we? Should we? Oh, no, we're not worried. It's I don't think they were expecting that, because actually after that first drive where they shut Purdue down, and Purdue went backwards on their first drive, and then Michigan just marched right down the field. Everybody's like, okay, this is the way it's supposed to be. And then all of a sudden Purdue comes back, and it's like, yeah, not so fast, my friend. And that stadium kind of was like, is this supposed to happen?
Wait a minute, what's happening?
I don't think so.
And also I will say, all right, so set me straight here, because I saw, is Brian Brom still going to be the interim coach, or is he okay?
He is still, because
I know we talked about off air, he's going to Louisville.
He's going to Louisville, and so is the interim defensive coordinator, Mark Hagan, just announced yesterday. He's going to Louisville as well. So, yeah, that's fun.
Yeah. Well, but what I was going to say, though, too, is if Brian Brom is there, I don't, especially because he's the offensive coordinator, this is an offense first kind of team, I don't foresee Purdue taking a big step back for their bowl game. So I think, if anything,
this is going to help them a little bit, because Brian Brom doesn't usually get to call the plays, and he's only done it once at his time at Purdue, and they beat Iowa. It was when Jeff Brom had COVID during the COVID year, and Brian Brom was interim head coach at the time, and Purdue beat Iowa, and their offense kind of looked a little bit different. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. All I can tell you is that the spread went from 9.5 down to 4.5 today.
There you go. So we're already getting
So we're
changes.
getting all because they hired Ryan Walters.
Right.
And seriously, they announced Ryan Walters, and the spread went from 9.5 to 4.5.
That's pretty incredible. You got any extra storylines to add before we go into impact players?
I mean, obviously, you got to look at the fact that there's going to be some players that are going to be that have opted out already. One of them being key player for Purdue secondary, Corey Trice, is that he is opting out to prepare for the NFL draft. It's kind of confusing because he's not a first round pick. He's probably like a day 2, day 3 pick at this point. So it's kind of a bit of a head scratcher. The other one that hasn't made up his mind, but apparently is leaning more towards opting out, is All-American wide receiver Charlie Jones. This one makes a little bit more sense because Charlie Jones has been dealing with injuries majority of the year, where he hasn't been practicing most of the weeks. He gets ready for game day, and that's about it. So for him to get healthy and heal his body up to get ready for the draft makes total sense. But because one of the big key factors that Purdue looked at and why they kept Brian Brom around as the interim head coach, is that ended up convincing Aiden O'Connell and tight end Peyton Durham to play in the bowl game. So you have your starting quarterback and your starting tight end that have decided they will be playing in the bowl game, which is a huge, huge gift for the Boilermaker team. And matter of fact, tonight there was a video released of Ryan Walters awarding Purdue redshirt freshman running back Devin Mockabee, who was a walk-on, awarding him a scholarship. And one of the players in the meeting, in the team meeting with Ryan Walters, when this happened, was Aiden O'Connell. So that just kind of shows you he's still around the team. He's all for this team. And honestly, a good performance from him in a bowl game could potentially even boost his draft stock a little bit, because right now he's kind of fringe, potentially drafted or undrafted.
Yeah, and I mean he's my impact player because I think because I mean
Yeah.
it all kind of it all kind of lines up the way you would want it to, with the coaching change going on, is to have the guy who's still the offensive coordinator, like you said. Big reason why Aiden O'Connell's still back. I mean, this is a quarterback who's completed 64% of his passes for nearly 3,500 yards, 22 touchdowns, 13 picks. Completed 68% of his passes for 366 yards and 2 interceptions versus Michigan. So I mean, obviously, aside from the 2 picks, he had a pretty good game against the Michigan defense that is one of the best. He leads a Purdue offense that's 4th in yards per game in the Big Ten, 6th in scoring, 2nd in the conference in passing. And like I said, with the departure of Jeff Brom, you kind of thought, oh no, what will this offense look like? But the fact that you've got Brian Brom sticking around bodes well, and I think O'Connell can have a good night. So, yeah, Aiden O'Connell is going to be someone to watch, and I think he's going to be the big difference maker for Purdue.
I'm looking at 2 guys as my difference makers. Aiden O'Connell's he's a given,
Right.
but I'm looking at tight end Payne Durham, knowing that he's going to play in this game. That's huge because this is a guy that if he can have a big game, that pays dividends for this Purdue offense. That opens things up for receivers on the outside because Payne Durham is a load to handle in the middle. I mean, he's one of the better tight ends in the country. So that's big. But I'm also looking at Devin Mockabee. You got a scholarship now, and everybody knows you can perform. Now is your time to go out there. I mean, Michigan struggled to stop you in certain situations. But if you could go out there and have a big game against LSU, this is win or lose. It doesn't matter for Purdue. We'll just be honest. It does not matter at this point. But for Mockabee to go out and have a big game could potentially set up Devin Mockabee to be looked at next year as one of the top running backs in the country, potentially. A guy that could be a potential dark horse Heisman candidate in the next year or two. This game is going to set up quite a bit for Devin Mockabee going forward in the future.
Yeah, I'm completely with you. I was excited to see Mockabee grow a lot this year, and he is going to be.
It's going to be exciting to actually see him grow physically. Once he puts on a little bit of weight, muscle, good luck.
I didn't mean to do this for both matchups, but I actually went like offense and then defense for the other team as far as like impact player. But for LSU, my player to watch is going to be linebacker Harold Perkins Jr. He's just a freshman. He's third on the team in tackles with 69. He's got 7.5 sacks, which leads the team. He had an interception. He's got an interception and 3 forced fumbles. His coming out party was the Arkansas game where he had 8 tackles, 4 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. With a Purdue offense that may or may not be on their game, Perkins could be in for another strong performance. I think he's going to be really important for that LSU defense as far as stopping Purdue on offense.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I don't really know too much about the LSU team this year. But their defense is going to have to be key in this one. So you picking a defensive player is the right move to go because Purdue's going to struggle to stop LSU's offense regardless. It's just the way we've come to know Purdue as the year has gone on. But if Purdue can hang with them offensively, then it's going to be a tough matchup. It's going to be a shootout. But if LSU's defense can just step up, get a couple stops, that's going to be key for them. So what I'm going to say is I'm going to looking at an impact group, and that is the LSU defensive secondary. Can they limit Purdue's wide receivers? Can they keep them contained, keep them in front of them? Purdue doesn't have a lot of burner speed, but they have some guys that can be a little bit twitchy. Like you got your TJ Sheffield, you got your Mershawn Rice. Those types of guys can get a little twitchy. Deion Burks. Can you contain Devin Mockabee? Obviously, Devin Mockabee is going to they're going to put him in a ton of different positions to get the ball because he is your best player. Let's just be honest. Devin Mockabee, without Charlie Jones, there is your best player. So they're going to be passing it to him. They're going to be running him out sweeps. They're going to be running him up the middle. Can you contain him? And I think a lot of that comes down to the secondary as well, being able to key in and read the plays to determine whether or not they need to stick with their man at wide receiver or try to go in and contain Mock.
So the hot or cold question is going to be hot or cold. LSU will cover the spread versus Purdue. Now, originally when that question was asked, it was 9.5, but I'm okay with still asking it because my answer was cold regardless. These are two teams that are top 50 in the country on both sides of the ball. LSU is 30th in total offense, averaging 443 yards per game. Purdue is 50th in yards per game with 410. Purdue is 38th in yards allowed per game, 350. LSU is 49th, allowing 363 yards per game. There's question marks surrounding both teams. How up will LSU be after knocking on the doorstep of the college football playoff / New Year's Six? How will Purdue look without Jeff Brom? This is shaping up, in my opinion, to be kind of like the Music City Bowl was last year with Purdue and Tennessee, as far as a lot of points, a lot of back and forth. I have more faith in Purdue potentially winning this game than I do LSU winning by 2 scores. And heck, I think if LSU or either team wins, it's going to be a 1-score, potentially 3, point game. So it's going to be a close game. It's going to be a back and forth offensive affair. No matter what the spread is, unless it's like half a point or a point and a half.
Oh, yeah.
I think I wouldn't be. Feeling very confident in picking LSU with the spread. So I'm going cold on this.
I'm going cold take too because I'm taking the Purdue Boilermakers to win the game. Why not? Look, LSU thought they were going to go be playing for the college football playoff. They got beat by Texas A&M. They're losing some players to the portal. Purdue's got nothing to lose. And that's exactly the way they were last year against Tennessee. They had nothing to lose. And nothing really, everything to gain, but nothing to lose. And they're like, hey, you know what? Let's go out there. Let's just go have some fun. We got a new coach coming in. They all like Brian Brom. They all do like him. I don't think they were all fond of Jeff Brom, though. So I think they're just going to go out there. They're going to prepare for this game, have fun. Got a lot of big seniors that are coming back that are going to play in this game. Go win it for them. Purdue wins. So it's a cold take. LSU does not cover the spread.